Okay, welcome back. And this is the 10th video in our series, Giraffe for Practitioners. This series did have 10 videos, and Corey, we covered everything from what best practices on how to connect systems,
how to navigate,
right?
setting
Navigating
custom tables,
Yep.
staffing, OpEx, revenue, the whole model.
Revenue, cost of goods sold, and we kind of ran through this series very similar to our blog and video series around how to build
10-step approach to
right
business
the
modeling.
10 steps approach to business modeling. And so the 10th video kind of ends with a little bit of a bow tie, right? Because at the end of the day, all of your customers, our customers, yes, they want to build these models to kind of get a perspective of where they're going into the future, but they need to be able to distill that down into visualizations, various reports for different stakeholders.
Realistically, they care about one thing: the output, right? The reports and the dashboards that come out of all of the work behind the scenes.
Right. But as practitioners, what we care about, probably a little less about the reports, a little less about the dashboards, what we care about as practitioners is the ability to have deep conversations, intuitive conversations, be able to ask the big why, be able to have those conversations with our customers.
And allow Jirav or allow the platform to kind of feed you some of this information, right? And I think that if you set up these reports and dashboards accurately, a lot of this can become automated for you, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those conversations can be.
Right. And so two things, that Giraffe offers for the practitioner around reporting. Not every stakeholder, and so think about the stakeholders as not just the management team, but you have board of directors, you have investors, you may even have functional leads like R&D, product development, HR, sales and marketing. Everybody sort of has their own thing they want to see, or that, hopefully better yet, that they're actually being held accountable for. Because as you're building these models, these pro formas, whether it's for next year's budget or a 3-5 year plan, you're really trying to grab the information and feedback and goals from each of the functional leads, because they're the ones that are really building these models fundamentally from the ground up, as opposed to just slapping a Kager, right, on top line revenue, and you have no idea where the revenue is going to be coming from. So I like the ability in Giraffe to be able to stratify out the reports and the dashboards, and also provide, it's not just like stratifying them out, but actually restricted access to certain stakeholders, right, Corey?
Based on the information that you're trying to provide, based on whether it's departmental, based on P&L line item, whatever that is. But I think it comes back to the same kind of theme that we've talked about for a while now, which is before you actually begin to build something with Jirav, blueprint it, right? It's like, know what you're going in there to build, because there's a million things you can do. You can slice and dice it a million ways. But if you're just going to go in there and start clicking buttons, you're no better off, right?
And blueprinting, but using functional lead information inputs, right? Not just, hey, the CEO or the founder thinks this is going to look like X, Y, and Z. Let's just build it magically, right? The other piece to this on the reporting, which we're going to actually touch on our last video in this series, which is actually video number 11, where we're actually going to be talking to you around how to build an FP&A practice or a finance as a service practice within your accounting CPA firm.
By leveraging Jirav.
By leveraging Jirav, because one of the nice things that kind of comes out of this reporting and out of the dashboards is once you've got all these models built, now you can take the output of Jirav and integrate it into your framework, your FP&A, your finance as a service framework. What am I delivering to my customer? When am I delivering? And what conversations, what insights, what decision making can come out of this? Because at the end of the day, that's what's important. Otherwise, it's just paper. It's just like numbers on paper, right? You might as well just shove it in the top right hand drawer of your desk. So with that, Corey's actually going to walk us through another video in Loom. The next section here is going to be, you're going to help us kind of build out some reporting.
I'm going to talk about some of the reports, some of the ways that we approach kind of some of the building, the frameworks, how you can segment some of the reports based on departments or different slicing and dicing of it. So
yeah, great. So here's Corey.
In this final video, we're going to be going through the dashboards and reports. What we have in front of us is a demo dashboard, but yours may look completely different. These dashboards are completely customizable with a ton of options that you can kind of maneuver based on what you want to see for that specific customer. You do not need the same dashboard across all of your accounts. Now, remember what we said in the video was that you want to blueprint these dashboards and reports out before you begin building them. If you take a look at building a new tile, There's a ton of metrics that you can add in here, and even custom ones if you want to build out your own metrics or KPIs or margins or ratios or whatnot. So there's a million things you can do. What's important is that you have an idea of what you're trying to display ahead of time, because otherwise you're going to end up spending all of your time just playing around with these. So I'm not going to focus on how to build them. There's a lot of great content on Jirav's Help Center that talks about how to build the underlying dashboard tiles. What I do want to talk about is kind of more of that presentation aspect of it, some of the unique features of this. They're constantly updating the reports and dashboards, so depending on when you're viewing this video, it may be slightly different in the future. I do know that they came out with an update this week that allowed us to actually change some of the text size on the dot. So don't be surprised with when you look at this, it may be slightly different. One of the main tiles that I like to include in our dashboards for our customers is this general text one. This is a double text box where you can upload the customer's logo, the customer's business name, the last month that it was closed, any notes you want to add in, any contact information. This may be a great place to add in the contact, your email address, your phone number, however the client contacts you. This is a great just intro that helps to reorient people, right? November is closed. They don't have to understand really what is forecast and what is historicals. It kind of presents it to them. You can put these really anywhere you want on the screen as well. Additionally, some of the things that we like to note are, it depends on the KPIs that the customer is looking for. So as you can see here, there's not only financial data, there can be, non-financial data such as website views. If that's, a SaaS focused business, you can build those into a custom table and even have the client import them via the Google Sheets import that we talked about in a previous video. On top of that, some best practices that we like to do. So while we do like to include the income statement tiles, one thing, and it depends on the customer and their unique business, is what we'll usually do is we'll actually turn off some of these other income and net income lines, right? A lot of the times, other income and expenses, either A, it may not be as relevant for the conversation, or B, it may just be nothing. And then net income, sometimes that's probably the same as the operating income. And so it just adds some cluster. Once again, that's not for everyone, but that is something to be aware of that you can adjust. On the dot or on the spot when you're having that conversation with the customer as well, you may choose to deselect some of these, which will, it's a live update as you go through them. If you hover over them, you'll see the numbers are solely that bar highlighted. You can also uncheck it completely and just look at specific numbers, right? If I only want to see operating income, I can check everything else off. And you can also hover over them for a live view of what the underlying exact number is. That's going to be a factor for most of these. If I want to turn off LTV, or if I want to turn off the actuals, these are really interactive. So spend some time, especially getting the customer or client to understand what this is and how they can engage with it, because this can be a great value add not only for the engagement together, but for the client themselves to understand their business model a little bit deeper. So that's the dashboards. You can have unlimited dashboards. One thing to note, I'll leave off on, is that dashboards are completely live, meaning when you update these numbers and you share the dashboard with an individual, whether that's an internal individual, external stakeholder, whatever it is, you do not have to keep republishing those. Those are consistently kept live, and the client or individual will always have access to them. So be aware of that as you're making adjustments or edits to these, that the client, if they do log in at that point, will be able to see them. On the flip side, the reports are not live. The reports are snapshots in time. So when you share a report, they see those numbers as they are published. If something happens to the underlying data, underlying accounting information that makes that content change, they will not see those updates unless you republish the reports. Just something to be aware of. When you head over to this reports, it's always going to navigate you to these default reports. Be careful if you are making any adjustments to these, whether in the columns, the rows, the collapsing or the expanding of it. These default reports are just a standard set, and I usually use these as working copies. These are not the ones that you will want to share with the customer. Those are going to be under the templates, and you can see that the default reports are not even listed under the templates. So just be aware of that. That's why I use these for a working copy, or if I want to see, or if I want to audit the underlying model real quick, that's where I'll navigate to. If you do navigate over to one of your templates, once again, you can make as many templates as you want. You go to edit template, you'll be able to adjust all of the types. So once again, there's a ton of different things that you can include in here. You'll want to have a rough blueprint of what that looks like, or what information you want to include ahead of time. You can also include dashboards in there, but those dashboards must be built out in that previous main dashboard section we looked at here. Lastly, note that when you do publish the report, you are going to have the republishings down here. You may want to create different reports. Some things that we've talked about with our customers is maybe one report for an internal management team, one report for external investors, one report for department heads where you filter it out by department. There's a ton of different things you can do in here. But remember that whatever you publish and whatever you share can only be shared with that individual. So if you only want the internal management reports to be shared with 5 people, you'll have to create a different report for external investors, right? Which is not a bad thing. That can actually be a huge help. If you have any questions or comments about the dashboards or reports, feel free to drop a comment below this video or reach out to us directly. We'd be happy to get in touch.
That was great. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, leave us some feedback. Also, check out our website, growthlabfinancial.com. Again, subscribe so you can be notified for the next one.